You can't replace part of the brain. Like, you
treat them the same.
The source of truth for the MedTech industry.
Coexists with the prophets.
Robot understands things automatically.
Number one show in the MedTech industry.
So Stryker got ahead of that and changed in the 90s, built $1 billion company that held up high. A lot of things.
State of MedTech with your host, Omar and Khateeb.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. So my guest today needs no introduction, especially if you're in the ortho world. Johnny Caffaro. Those of you who know him as a medical sales leader. He was at a very large strategic at one point. And back in the early days of, let's say, when LinkedIn was becoming a thing in our industry, there's like a small handful of people who are actually putting out content. Johnny was one of those people, put out amazing content. We got connected out in Utah with our families, and yeah, you know, he took a sabbatical and left the industry, and I'm really happy and excited to see that he's come back. So Johnny, it's so good to see you, man. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm awesome. I'm magical. I'm super happy to be here. So glad we connected in Utah and just created that friendship all around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and our kids met each other and everything. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was good. They had so much fun. I mean, how old were they? They were like 2 years old at the time.
Yeah, mine was just like, I think a little over a year and a half. Yeah. Like not even. He was just started walking and stuff. Yeah. So maybe like just for the people who are not familiar with you, maybe give us a little intro into like, who is Johnny Caffaro? How'd you get into the industry? And a little bit of your like patient story too, because I think that's like a very unique part of it.
No, I mean, I always tell people, everybody asks, how long have you been in the medical industry? And I always say my whole life, because I was born with a really rare disease, like Caffaro disease. Same thing, kind of like Forrest Gump had. I had braces on my legs from kindergarten to second grade, and just not enough blood supply went to the femoral head, so it grew deformed. And so it would just slip out of socket at 5 years old, and I'd just face plant it. And so fast forward, I mean, I was serving a church mission in Finland and just destroyed my cartilage, and I came home, and lo and behold, like I had no cartilage left, and we had to go in and get a first surgery. And I got a periacetabular osteotomy, which is probably one of the worst surgeries around, I believe, because they ruin your whole anatomy. They just reshape it all around. And so then that failed after 18 months. Had to go in and get a total hip replacement. And with that, he fractured my femur putting in the stem. We didn't know it was intraoperatively, but for 9 months I walked on a broken femur. Went out to HSS for that Stryker training, actually got into the industry and found out that there is such thing as selling hip and knee replacements. And so then I put myself through that, got hired on at Stryker Orthopedics because I heard they were one of the best in the industry and I wanted to be a part of the best. And so then I got into the industry as a patient, then as a sales rep, right? And then had to go in and get my third hip replacement, a revised hip replacement. And so 3 hip replacements in 4 years, man. It was a very dark period in my life. It was tough. A lot of mental fortitude, a lot of people help coming together. But it was a good time because like I was in the industry and I knew what was going on, and I wasn't really like unaware where a lot of people just trust blindly of the surgeons or the doctors. And so I had to ask a lot of questions like, hey, why are we doing it this way? What's going on? And so it gave me a lot of benefit to be able to go in, and then started off my career in the medical industry with Stryker. And then I looked at a lot of leaders in the industry, and I saw a lot of people had marketing or sales background or engineering and marketing. And so I wanted to get into the marketing side of things. So I started with a small company in Utah called Ortho as a hip product manager. And then 2 years later, went on to be with United Orthopedics as a global product manager, and then became director of sales, and then just expanded my horizon within the medical industry. So it's a patient, selling, marketing. I've kind of done the whole spectrum of medical.
That's awesome. And I love that. There's something I think very unique when not only do you have, if you had like a family member affected by something and you're in the space, but like for you specifically being a patient and then having an implant and then going into that exact specialty. What implant do you have? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've got the Restoration Modular Cone Conical Stryker Revision Stem with the G7 Biomet Zimmer Biomet cup. So I like the combo. I mean, I wish I never had the revision stem, But I mean, it's a good combo. Everyone's like, how did you get the G7 with Stryker? I was just like, the second surgery, that G7 cup's not coming out. So
Nice.
very fixated.
Nice. What were some of the learnings you got, like when you're, I guess, a rep, and when did you decide to start like putting yourself more out there on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so, so it was with United Orthopedics. They everyone thought I was selling knee and hip implants for United Airlines. So I'm like, guys, no, like this is not it. So I'm like, I had to create a whole story around this. Like, hey, this is a orthopedic company based out of Taiwan. And then I told my story on top of it. So I was like Johnny the hip guy. And then I became a trusted person because people were like, oh, I can relate to this guy. Oh, he's also selling the product. And so people are like, he's not going to sell a product that's not good. And so I started using the social media platform as a way to be able to just get bigger. And I saw, like, I live in Utah, and it's the Silicon Slopes, they call it, right? Everything has gotten massive here. And I saw all my friends in the tech industry just posting on LinkedIn and like creating these names and this like personas. I was just like, it's like nobody is doing it for the medical industry, like in ortho. Like, this is crazy. So I just wanted to be able to like put myself out there, and like you kind of become like this influencing person if you're posting and have great product to talk about or great content. And it just pushed me more forward. And then I became this like go-to person, like, hey, what would you do for this case? I see you have this, or connecting with doctors. And I'd go around the country as I was traveling and tell doctors, like, you need to get on LinkedIn. Like, there's a community out there now. People are talking. And now, as you see it, Omar, like every surgeon is on there almost, and everyone's posting cases and asking for help. In the past, no surgeon really asked for help, right? Like, they just stayed in their silo.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people decide to stay in their silo? Like, what made you sort of different when it comes to doing that?
I just think the issue is like ego comes into play. Like, people don't think I can do this. I went to all the school. I don't need help. But then, like, when you do have that camaraderie, like people coming together and like everyone voicing or giving people's feedback, I think it makes you feel better. Like, hey, I have a backup. Like, I don't need. And then you can also show the patient, like, listen, this is what I got 7 other opinions for you. Here's this. Like, you don't need to go and have other opinions. I just got it on social media. So it was powerful.
Yeah, during that time, I don't know about you, but like for me, when I started putting more content out on social media, a lot of people are very supportive of it. Surgeons love it. It's good. But, there's a lot of people in our industry who are not used to that. They're not crazy about it. Did you experience any of that? What was that like?
Quick commercial break for marketing leaders and sales leaders. I don't have to tell you this, but it's worth reiterating that the time clinicians have to meet with medical reps is limited. You know this and feel this. It's been a challenge for med device sellers for decades. Now, with the rising workloads and patient care demands, clinicians' times are shrinking even more. And the window for your sellers and your sales team to meet with these clinicians consists of pretty much just minutes in a busy hospital hallway. The reality is your sellers have to make every second count, or someone else will. They must be concise, they got to be efficient, and use highly relevant information to make the most out of these brief interactions. ShowPad is all about focusing your sellers on the art of selling, which is about building trust and relationships. And while there's science, the ShowPad solution handles the behind-the-scenes prep and follow-up work to make your team more effective. The best part is that you get insights on content and training performance so you can make strategic decisions and invest more in what works based on data. ShowPad helps your sales and marketing teams spend their time in more productive, high-impact ways with a multiplying effect on your revenue results and growing your pipeline. So to learn more, go to showpad.com/state of MedTech. Now, let's get back to the show.
I felt like I had a target on my back for the most part. I mean, I feel like the executives at different companies didn't like it, but I feel like everybody below it loved it because there's like, I'm one with the people, I'm for the people, like I have a voice for the people. But I think the executives at most companies, like, who's this person? Like, he hasn't worked his way up. We're executives. How is he like more famous or popular than I am? How's his name in a household name other than mine? And I think companies kind of get like scared of the fact that like people can have influence over companies, not over companies, but like they can be bigger than companies at times. So that's why most companies on Instagram or all these stuff, they partner with influencers because they know the power of that. But I feel like the med device or medical is kind of scared to be able to adapt it, because I think it's the slowest moving industry, which I get it. There's a lot of compliance, there's a lot of different things, moving parts. But like, why wouldn't you want your employees to talk about the cool things that are going on at the company? Like, it's free marketing, it's guerrilla marketing. It's like they have their title and their headline, and they can be able to talk about it, and no one's not being compliant. I don't think I've ever posted one uncompliant thing out there, but like, it just doesn't sit well with a lot of executives, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you think of the fact that like our industry is not used to this idea of like the personal brand or individual being bigger than the main flagship brand? Do you think that's what it is?
Absolutely. I think it's never been the case, because how can a rep in, let's say, Des Moines, Iowa, like, you'll just be that rep, and only that people in that 30-mile radius will know who you are, and they want to keep you that way. But if you start posting and becoming more well-known, they can be able to like, oh, I can't control this person, he's bigger or better, or the company is like, you're surrounding yourself on that. And so I just think it's just something that gets them like scared, because like, personal brand, like, everyone should have a personal brand. Like, you have a personal brand if you're walking into a place, like, it's how you dress, it's how you present yourself. So why not just do it on a social platform as well?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like,
did you ever have any issues as you were growing your?
Of course. I mean, look, like, just so that we can like sort of open you up a little bit more, like I'll share like very specific. So like, when I started like my adoption of LinkedIn, it was like 2014. It started like 2013, 2014, when I was following a lot of growth marketing out of Silicon Valley, specifically like Andrew Chen at Uber and these other guys. And then I was like, okay, well, Instagram was being used back then, but not the way it was today. Yeah. Facebook was fine. The problem with Facebook is that like, it's not always obvious who's a physician, who's not. And so LinkedIn was like one of the main platforms that, and there's a reason why Microsoft paid $28 billion for it, is because it is the world's #1 resource for B2B contact information and data. So like Apollo, Zoom Info, all those like companies that are worth billions of dollars, they get all their info pretty much from LinkedIn. So when I started exploring and seeing that physicians were on it, that's where I was like, oh man, I can see the physician, I can see their like personal email address, etc. And so that's how I first started using it. But then because my company at the time got acquired by Medtronic, so I was like, I really want to move to San Francisco, but I wasn't getting any looks by recruiters. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and start publishing my own articles on LinkedIn about strategy and marketing and things that I was interested in at the time. I still am, like psychology and persuasion. I was like, I'll demonstrate, who I am without having to go through this recruiter, which many of them, for every one good recruiter you find, there's like 100 just absolute garbage ones. This is a low barrier. It's like it's almost similar to like marketing in some way, because like it's a low barrier industry. Probably the lowest of all barriers, just because like anybody can become like a recruiter overnight from their home kitchen. So anyway, to sort of I started writing an article a week on LinkedIn, right? Really long, in-depth article. So I was like doing the LinkedIn influencer thing before it was like a thing. It was back when like not a lot of people were using LinkedIn, but people were reading my articles. And so I was at another company, and I wrote an article about surgeons and robotics. And and the title was like something like, why surgeons may not want robotics in the OR, right? And that was the idea of good copyright, is to get attention, right? So that was the title. The article was actually very much like, hey, here are the reasons why they may not like it. But here, like the article was very pro robotics, right? Well, the guy who I worked for at the time, the CEO, didn't read the article. He just read the headline, and then essentially invited me to his office to just lay into me. I think he had like a little PTSD from the past in terms of like people ridiculing early adopter surgeons who were really interested in robotics, and so that kind of touched a nerve for him. And then like I had to like, I didn't take the article down, but I like changed the title of it, So like that's like one, that one company, like one of the people I worked for was like constantly like irritated by the fact that like I was getting this kind of attention, and I never posted anything inappropriate, You know,
I've never seen anything inappropriate, right? Like,
I've never seen anything inappropriate from you either. Everything that I've seen from your end, actually, I used to, you know, for my medical sales course, I used it as an example. I was like, you know, here's what good looks like, because you posted a lot of stuff on leadership and everything. The problem I think you and I ran into is that the moment we talk about something related to us and not the company, that's when they're like, hey, like, what are you doing? Why aren't you talking about our stuff?
Yeah.
All the time. You know, and I remember, like, this is the first time, Johnny, I realized that how psychology works, which is people focus on what they want to focus on. So, like, I would get this feedback that, like, oh, you know, you're being very selfish. You just want to be a star and everything. And I would look at my content. I'm like, in the last month, I've posted like 1 or 2 things that are like personal. Like, I did a book review or something. And then, like, everything else is about the company. People don't see that. They see what they want to see. Do you go through the same thing?
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing. Oh, 100%. Even in relationships, everybody remembers the end of the relationship. They don't remember any of the good, the middle, the beginning. They just remember what happened at the very end. And that's what they see. They just see the last post, or they only see the one personal. It's like how many times I like was showing product and I was showing all these different things for the company. And then I talk about my hips, like, hey, how many times are you going to talk about your hip? I'm like, that's about my story. Like, what am I supposed to not share? But like, I'm also relating it back to like the company and like how we have great hip products. Like, why are you focusing on just my personal story? I totally got that all the time. I even got a social media policy written at our company because of me. They had to finally come up with a social media, like, you had to go in, check some boxes before you could post. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if it's a company post, yeah, I can get that. But if it's a personal post, I don't need to relay it back to you guys.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And personally, I believe that I don't know, illegal is not the right word, but a company I think has every right to tell you what you are allowed to post in relation to their company and their 100%. Product.
Yep.
And that's totally fine.
That's fine.
But anything else, 100% illegal. Yeah. Illegal. And me personally, I try and like look for companies who are trying to do that, because there's a lot of like unwritten rules that like have made reps scared to post and comment and everything. And the problem with that, I think, is that like, hey, that's all great until the day comes that your company decides to lay you off. Yeah. And now you have to start from scratch, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the thing is like, I never like, I mean, I get to a point where a couple companies have pushed me out because of social media, right? Like, I've had that happen. Like, hey, we don't want you a part of this because you're too big and bigger than the brand of the company. But the cool thing is like, as I kept my social platform going until I didn't, we can get that later, but that it gave me those avenues of different people, like gave me different consulting gigs. It gave me different things at different places. If I didn't post, then I'd be irrelevant to the space of where I was at. So it's like, I kept wanting to do that.
And so what was going on in your life? Like, I mean, and feel free to share what you feel comfortable with. Why did you disappear? Because I remember I know why, but
yeah,
you know, talk about like you like went off the map completely. You know, like not only did you leave the industry, but like you were gone. And I remember there was a period where like I even like reached out to you a couple times because I was genuinely worried about you. Yeah. And you know, so talk to us about what was going on and
yeah, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, I was going through so much pain again. I felt like I was almost having to go through a 4th hip replacement. Like, I don't know what was going on with my hips.
Your hips were going through pain again.
Massive pain again. Like, I just don't understand why, and I don't know if it was the travel or if I wasn't aligned with what I wanted to do in life. And I left Stryker and started a consulting company, and I was killing it. It was doing really, really well. But then it felt more so out of ego and how I was posting and how I was like helping, like it just didn't feel right. And I was going through a lot. Like, I was Mormon. I grew up Mormon, LDS. I don't know, Mormon LDS, people will know what that is. And it just never resonated with me, like the religion itself. So all at the same time, I left my career, I left religion, I left my marriage just because it wasn't aligned with who I was. And I just went within, like, I changed my phone number. I disappeared in that aspect. Like you said, you reached out like, hey, I can't get a hold of you. You even messaged me on LinkedIn. Man, I was going through a lot. And I think a lot of people only go through life changes every 10 years, maybe. And I went through 3 major and I just had twins. And so so I had 4 life changes within like a month period of time. And I just didn't feel right. So like I disappeared, and I went in and I went and did a journey with like same thing as Aaron Rodgers did. I went down to Costa Rica and did some ayahuasca, and that was life changing for me. It like opened up my hips, and I just saw all the pain that I was carrying, and it just popped. And then I'm like, I need yoga. And so I just jumped in and I did 300 classes last year of yoga that just completely changed my life. Hot yoga, sweating. I see you always in the sauna when you're doing all your stuff.
Yeah, I need to get back into hot yoga. It's really good for you.
Life changing. Like, right? Yeah. If you can get to the sauna 2 to 3 times a week, they say it increases your lifespan by like 40%.
Yes, that is true. This is why next house we move into next year, I'm definitely installing a sauna.
Yeah.
Sauna is really good for you.
Massive. But it also was so good for my hip joints. Like I could finally open up and I could be able to touch my toes. Dude, I couldn't put socks or shoes on. Like that's how tight and how bad of pain I was in. I couldn't chase after my kids. And it also gave me mental clarity because that room is like, it's 105 degrees, 50% humidity for an hour. You're stretching, you're doing all this stuff. Like you want to leave. And it gave me that mental fortitude that all you need to do is just stay on your mat. And so it's like when I have any of those issues going on outside of the yoga room, I just know, stay centered, stay on your mat, everything will be okay. And so, man, I went through a lot of stuff. Like you don't leave the religion, you're leaving like a community, you're leaving like a family, you're leaving. And so that was a big deal. Like my family didn't even know what was going on. They just like, oh, Johnny's lost. Like he's not doing his thing. Like, but I truly was just coming back to center and just understanding myself. Like I wanted to be a sovereign being. I wanted to make my own choices, not being told what to do. And I wanted to make sure that I was also aligned with like, if I do post, I'm not being told or what to do on that aspect. And so, yeah, man, I just disappeared. Like I didn't want, like I cut all ties and connections with everybody. Like we're all beings of light and energy. And I believe that like I was just taking on so much energy and I didn't know how to deal with it. And so enough was enough. And so I just went out and healed myself and put myself in a better position. And I knew that if I could be able to come back into the industry at some point, I'd be a better version of myself and be able to know when to hold them and know when to fold them and not take on every kind of thing that came my way and learn to say no. I think I gave so much the cool thing is one of the journeys nights, like this was my biggest lesson in life is I stopped having expectations because I expected something to happen in one of those journeys in Costa Rica and nothing happened that night. And I was super disappointed. Like, dude, I was crying. I thought like I'd be healed. Something would have changed. But that was one of the biggest life lessons I learned is stop having expectations and you'll never be disappointed. So I don't expect things from anybody anymore. I don't expect things from myself. I just go more with the flow and have that better understanding that everything is happening for me, not to me. And I think that was my biggest like aha moment where it's like, man, I'll never be disappointed again because I have that understanding that everything will be okay.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny you say that because like I can remember someone told me this a long time ago that the key to happiness is just very, very low expectations.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I kind of want to go back, because the journey is really interesting. So like myself, I have not done ayahuasca. I have many friends who have. And one of those things that they say is like, you go do ayahuasca only if you feel like that you're called to it. What was going on and how did you decide to do that? And it's kind of scary because like you're going to a different country and you don't know what's going to happen. That's that
jungle, right? Like,
yeah.
No
idea. And this is, for those who are, not maybe anti-drugs and stuff, like ayahuasca is a very religious ceremonial thing, for the cultures that are down in South America and Central America. But what compelled you to do that? And like walk us back to that night.
Yeah, man, I was just so lost and I felt like I didn't have an understanding of life. And I felt like I was getting pulled in so many different directions. And I'm like, there's got to be something in this world other than cutting me open again and doing a 4th hip replacement. And there's got to be something bigger than the religion that I'm in because it's not sitting with me. There's got to be something that is like aligning with me that like inside I just couldn't understand what I was seeking or looking for. And everyone's just said like, if ayahuasca is calling you, you should go, because you're going to be able to get into these deep rooted programs that you can be able to release. And so I had it booked in 2018, and like the Mormon religion, my family, they're just like, that's of the devil, don't do drugs. Like, and I'm like, oh, damn it. Like, okay, I won't go do it. And so I was influenced again not to do it. And so this time around, I'm like, when I had the opportunity, dude, it's scary. Like Costa Rica, it's a different country. You're going in the middle of the jungle. You have no idea who this shaman or facilitator is. And like, you're just going there for healing. And I wanted to heal, and I wanted to heal deep rooted trauma stuff. I wanted to heal physical pain. I've been in pain my whole life since 5 years old, since I had my hip come out. And so I'm like, I was looking for something just to alleviate anything, right? Like I wasn't sleeping at night. I was taking medicine to get up. I was taking medicine to get down. I was taking Adderall to stay focused. I was taking a tramadol to ease the pain. And like, that wasn't a way to live. Like I didn't want to have that kind of aspect. I didn't want my kids to see like me just taking all this kind of medicine and all this stuff and just be stuck into this cycle. So when I go down there, I mean, you're like, what the hell? Where did I, like these little huts? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? Then the ceremony started at 7, and like you drink the ayahuasca and you're there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was just purging. I was just throwing up so much, but I was actually smiling as I was releasing, because I was seeing the emotions and the programs that I was letting go. I was seeing the childhood trauma. I was seeing the trauma that I was holding into my hip. And it was just like this massive release, because they say there's different ways to release energy. There's crying, there's throwing up, there's all these different things. And so that gives us like so many different avenues, but throwing up is like a massive detox. And so when I threw up, it was great. And I was seeing colors and I was seeing lights, but it was just also, I felt at peace, and I was like, okay, I'm good. Then the second night, like, I went into it like come what may, because nothing really happened the first night except me throwing up. And that's when like, boom, like I saw like the heavens open, and I saw like the Mother Jaguar and Mother Ayahuasca was speaking to me, grandmother, they call her, say, you are on the right path. You are supposed to be here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for hearing the call to be able to heal yourself. Because that's all we're trying to do, is come down here on this earth, is to heal and be a better person and evolve and help people. And that's my biggest thing, is like, you saw a lot of my content. Like I love helping people and networking with people and putting people in a place where they can be able to succeed, just like you do. Like you're great at that. And that's why we got along so well, because like we always want to lift everybody up. That needs it, right? There's some people that don't need to be lifted up, but that was my thing, man. It was one of the most intense healing experiences. And during that journey, all the physical pain just went away. I could touch my toes. I could do every yoga move possible. And then I woke up the next morning and I wasn't flexible, but the pain was gone. So I'm like, I need yoga. Like I need to do the work, because a lot of people want a pill or a medicine just to have instant gratification, instant healing, or instant something, but it's never going to happen that way. We're in a society where Amazon Prime, you get it the same day. Like all this stuff, you want it now, you want it now. There's no such thing as waiting or doing the work. But there's so much joy and there's so much strength in doing the work that you're going to be able to look back and be like, hey, I grew from there over than not going it, you know?
That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, what's interesting is that, do you feel like leaving your last company, that when you left, you were really, and again, I don't think there's such a thing as like right or wrong, or, you know, this, you know, I think there's both sides to the story, and it makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure like at this point too, like, you know, you can kind of look back and understand some aspects of where like your previous employer, like where they were like, you know, maybe disagree with it, but you can understand and empathize why they might feel a certain way. Do you feel like when you left, a lot of your actions and your life was just very, very heavily ego driven, and then you went and on this like ceremonial retreat and sort of experience ego death and sort of have a different take on not just those events in your life, but just life in general?
100%. I mean, I was very ego driven, and I could definitely empathize and see what the company was coming from and seeing it. But at the same time, like when you're in it, you have no idea and you can't see, like you have these horse blinders on as yourself and you're just like on a one track and you can't really see what other people are, get different perspective. And so it's just like, yeah, man, I just wanted to keep posting. I wanted to keep being on podcasts. I wanted to keep going on TV shows because the momentum was great and great and great. But stepping back, I could see like from the employer side of you, like, yeah, it could be like, we can't control this guy. Like, we got to get him under wraps. Like, he's allowing other people to have a voice. And then going through this ego death, like, man, like, even the way I post now, even the way I talk about things are so different. Like, I have come to a different point where it's just like, I don't care about success as what I like. How do you define success, right? Like, people have so many different ways. Like, I guess my way was like climbing the corporate ladder and like having the best and nice job title and the best and nice car and the best and nice house. And like, is that really success? Or are you being a good person? Are you helping people along the way? Are you lifting people up? Are you speaking good about people? Or like, that's what I feel like success. Like, are you helping somebody? So like, as I go about it now, if my post can help one person today, then I'm helping somebody. That's success. Like, what you're doing for other people in the industry, Omar, is like, that's success. So you're giving people a leg up. Like, I had no idea what I was doing when I got into the medical industry. I had no help. I had nothing. And so if I can be like a little bit of a support system to somebody now, then that's success to me, man. I don't need the nicer house, the nice cars. I don't need the job titles. I call me janitor, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? But like, I just want to help people. So it's like, I could definitely empathize and see, but at the same time, like, I think they also didn't have that perspective of me as the individual too. I think it goes both ways, but like, sure, for sure wasn't my ego.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, you know, while I really want to see our industry evolve and get better, for some of these companies, especially if they're publicly traded and you're dealing with, you know, the public market stuff, I can empathize and understand why they have to kind of keep, you know, sort of tight guidelines around those things, because, you know, you don't have like, let's say 30 or 40 people to worry about. You have like thousands, right? And so, you know, I can understand that. I'm just hoping that like from that experience, the way that you've kind of grown and reflected, sort of have a different, more empathetic understanding of the situation. And I think that the people on the other side too would agree with that as well.
For sure.
So you go through this, you know, you go to the jungle, you go through this ceremonial experience, right? You come back to the US
with a full sleeve tattoo.
With a full sleeve tattoo. Oh yeah, that's right. And then you had some tattoos before then, right? Or no?
This is the first. I went down to Costa Rica and then came back with this.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it.
A lot of changes, man. I did a lot.
Well, what you know, and I remember like last year was, and I think the reason why I wanted to like interview and talk about this is that I think there are a lot of reps specifically who feel this way in one way or another, because being a medical sales rep, I think it is the most difficult job in our industry, in the sense that you're selling to an extremely intelligent, very dogmatic and critical individual. Yep. It's physically demanding because, like, aside, like, even if you're not carrying trays, going and standing in surgery with a mask on for like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, you know, the commutes, all these things, it's just a physically and mentally and spiritually demanding role. And I think a lot of reps feel stuck, and they're in this like wheel where it's like they move from like one company to another, but it's like they can't get out of it and they feel really down. I think there's a lot of depression and anxiety and stress in our industry and the medical sales side. And so I like that you essentially took a sabbatical. How long were you out for, just doing yoga and everything? Like a whole year?
Yeah, whole year for sure. Completely.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense too, because I mean, you went through like not just one traumatic change, but like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah. When you started doing yoga, when, you know, so like when I started meditating, the thought was for you to really experience like, oh, something's different. It would be 7 days straight of 15 to 20 minutes of meditation at minimum. For you, how often were you doing yoga, and at what point did you start like noticing something different?
I was doing yoga every day, almost sometimes twice a day. I'd get into the room. And I noticed that within 2 weeks, honestly, like, or a week maybe, like, it's just being consistent. But like, it wasn't noticing it in the yoga room. I was noticing it when I was like having a conversation with somebody, when I would have either been triggered and then I wasn't. I was just like, whoa, like I didn't fight that conversation. Like, I was calm, cool, and collective. Like, I was eased. Like, I wasn't defensive. I didn't have a fight or flight moment. Like, I was like, okay, I understand that. Like, I honestly like came that yogi vibe. Like, I feel like I'm a hybrid yogi. Like, I still like to look nice, dress nice, but I feel I have that yogi mentality where it's like truly that what they say is namaste. It's like being one with yourself and not having to like have those arguments. But like, it takes a little bit. Like you said, it took 7 days for you to get into that. But like I said earlier, there's not going to be an instant gratification with the work. There's like, you got to put in the work, and it has to be daily. Like, another way that I was journaling every night. After yoga, I would journal and make sure that I was like, my thoughts would come out, because sometimes I was holding deep thoughts, and as I was writing, I would start crying or I'd emotion. I'd think this would be great to be able to have this. And so it's like, it's being consistent and actually spacing out, making time for it. And I feel like you said, it is the hardest industry as a sales rep, medical device. You're so taxing, you never know when it is, but like, you can make time. Like, anybody says there's no time, that's an excuse. You can always find 15, 20 minutes sitting in your car in the hospital parking lot. You can put on a meditation. You can do a quick breath work. Like, Wim Hof does amazing 10-minute breath works. Go on YouTube. You'll find a 10-minute one on there with Wim Hof. But it's being consistent and showing up for yourself. And I think a lot of people don't show up for themselves. They show up for so many other people, but they're not showing up at 100% because they haven't done the work and showed up for themselves. And so I think that's where it needs to happen, is showing up.
For the reps who are listening, again, like, let's take your typical rep who's like, busy. And of course, if they have a family, like, it's even worse, but like, for them to kind of start on their own journey of healing and just sort of exploring, like, what would you recommend that they do? Like, on a weekly basis, daily basis, and keeping in mind that they have like a super busy schedule and like time tight.
Well, my thing is like, I get up and I put my feet right on the floor and I ground myself back to where I am. And so it's like, I call back in my energy and I put myself there. And if you have 5 to 10 minutes, you're in theta when you wake up. So you're in this great state of mind. Don't grab your phone right off the bat. Stay 5-10 minutes off your phone, because that's beta waves and it brings you straight into like the addiction of the beta. Stay in theta and be able to like have a few mantras like, I am magical, I am powerful, I am strong, I have energy, today is going to be a great day, I am open to the universe to flow. And then you're going to be able to have such a different shift. It's like when you're angry or when you don't like a TV show, you just change the channel, right? Why can't we do that in our everyday life when we're in an emotion that we don't like? Change the channel. And so I feel like then if you have a spare minute, like, put headphones on real quick and do a breath work, 10 minutes, Wim Hof, like, that will really change, because your central nervous system will be able to relax and you'll be able to have an understanding, like, you're going to be okay more so, instead of like, you're always in this like panic, fight or flight. Dude, I was a rep. I knew, like, I was running OR to OR. I was stressed. I had to go reset trays. I had to go from hospital to hospital. But if you're mindful and you're present and aware, that's really going to start helping the process. Like, so I would just say, start with any kind of mental practice where it's like either journaling, it's either breath work, it's meditation. There's sound baths. Have you ever done a sound bath, Omar, with the big sound bowls?
No, it's funny that I haven't done that. I haven't done that, or a deprivation tank, which I feel like I should have done that by now, but I have not.
Yeah, you've done everything else. I mean, come on. And I think like anything, but yoga is a moving meditation. That's all it is. You're meditating throughout the whole posture. So it's like, there's so many different things, but like, you have to create a sacrifice. And I understand that. I mean, I have 5 kids. I'm a single dad. and I still find the time to make sure that I am mindful of what I need. Dude, I was traveling the last 3 weeks for for work, and I almost had to go again this week, and I canceled it because like I needed time to relax, center back, and be able to do that. And in the past, I would have just kept going. I would have just like kept burning out, just burn the candle at both ends. So
I think that's the thing about our industry is that like it's really big on the go model, but I don't know. I think pre-smartphones that stuff kind of worked. I think you're able to do that because like you weren't like your spirit and energy wasn't being drained from like the computer, the smartphone, etc. But because of these new technologies, I think it accelerates things in terms of the wear and tear on your mind and your body. Absolutely. And so being able to exercise and even do things mentally to exercise your brain, like reading, meditation, those kind of things are like more important than ever.
Dude, even what you do with cooking, that's a huge release as well too. That's like outlet. Cooking your steaks and all that stuff, like that's, and like cutting them up and having that's a huge release. Like people don't understand anything being creative is a release.
You know, I wonder, you know, if we like think about a rep today and, you know, they got to wake up in the morning, they got to drive, like what, like on the drive, let's say to a case, I'm wondering like what kind of things could they do to facilitate that kind of a release, or just, you know, just to kind of like tap into that, you know, that part of your spirit, right? Yeah.
What? No, I mean, I listen to high, like solfeggio healing frequencies. It's hertz, it's different frequencies. And
what is that like on something you look up on Spotify?
Yeah, just Spotify, the solfeggio healing frequencies. And then when
how do you spell that?
Let me yeah. You just put me on the spot, man. Hold on.
Yeah, because I'm
SOLFEGGIO frequencies. SOLFEGGIO healing frequencies.
Solfeggio frequencies. Here we go. I just found it.
It's
there's like one. Oh wow, there's one called Solfeggio Healing Frequencies MT. It's got 1.2 million monthly listeners.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And there's different frequency. There's a 192 hertz, and that brings you up into heart healing. There's 392 hertz, 528 hertz. Like all these, I listen to those on the drive because it raises my vibration, it raises my frequency, and like that's on the drive. And don't eat fast food, don't eat all this stuff because it's low vibrational stuff, so it brings you down and more depressed and puts you in this different kind of state of mind. That's when you're like, what kind of music are you listening to? Are you listening to high vibrational music? Are you eating high vibrational foods? Like, are you eating greens and stuff from the gardens? Are you eating living food? There's so many different things, and like the music that you listen to on the drive in is going to impact the rest of your day. And so that's what, go ahead.
You know, and I want to like, because I'm sure some people might be listening to this and they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know about that. Let me back this up. So like yesterday I had the CEO of Cognito Therapeutics, which is a neurotech company. So essentially they are tackling Alzheimer's, and the way they're doing it is a non-pharmaceutical way. Essentially they have like these over-ear headphones and then these glasses that produce like both a visual and audio for the patient. And the whole, and I'll share my screen for those who are like watching on Spotify or YouTube. You know, there are different like waves that your brain emits, right? So like you have gamma, delta, alpha, theta, and delta waves. So like when you're in deep sleep, you're in delta waves, but you get up to gamma waves, which for those who can't see, like the delta waves are like big waves. They're slow moving. Gamma waves are like very, very fast and small. It's almost like your brain is being exercised. So that's at 30 to 100 hertz, right?
Yep.
Well, the thing about it is that aside from the fact that there's a lot of research showing that when you increase in gamma waves, it's a protective way for the brain for Alzheimer's, but it's also very, very much used for depression. And to a point, they even did this with mice, where they got mice to 40 hertz of gamma waves, and it was protective for the brain for chemotherapy.
Yeah.
You know, so what you're saying is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's something to be said about like, even me, I'm trying to be more mindful about what I listen to, because even like, you know, if you think about it, like, this is why the First Amendment, the right to freedom of speech, is so important, because if you can control what people can say, right, you control what they think, because in order to think, you have to hear it, you have to be able to speak it, right? And so like listening, I mean, look, I love, like, I was working out this morning, I do love Wu-Tang Clan, but even with that, but with Wu-Tang Clan, believe it or not, like, I was like, you know what, I think I need to put on, there's a clean version of Wu-Tang Clan, because like hearing foul language is not good for your spirit, you know, even though, you know, so I think like going into work, the things you listen to are super important, you know, and it primes you for the day, especially I think when you wake up in the morning, you have like 30 minutes of delta waves, in which case that's the time that you're most impressionable, which is why you shouldn't open your phone and look at social media and everything. That's when you should like meditate, do yoga, you know, do, you know, a reflective journal, even of gratitude, affirmations, etc. Right?
100%. I mean, that's where like children live in that theta delta wave. They're from 0 to 9 years old. They're in that. That's why they can ride broomsticks and believe they're on rocket ships. They have this imaginary. That's when they're most programmable. So when you wake up, that's when you're most programmable. So if you're listening to negative stuff, you're going to have negative programs the rest of the day. But if you're opening and waking up and doing positive stuff, positive affirmations, because I am are the two most powerful words in the world, because anything after I am, you'll be like, I am sad, I am mad, I am unhappy. Like, you're going to be those things. But if you're, I am happy, I am powerful, I am strong, like, you are those things, right? So it's like whatever you think about will come about. So I 100% agree.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this because, like, again, like, there's a lot of like naysayers in our space about this kind of stuff, because it feels silly, but it's very, very true.
Woo, and I get that. I understand.
You know what? I would say maybe the most well-read person in the space in terms of like the depth and an extent that, you know, and you're absolutely right. And I think like one thing I've learned, I think when you, so like when you look at sports is like a microcosm of life. And so if you look at, for example, like, I think this is a good one just because it was most recent and it was like within such a short time. It's like Conor McGregor, when he's coming up and he was a nobody, and he started referring to himself, he's like, I'm the champion and everything. And like a reporter even said, well, no, technically you're not. Like, you don't hold the belt. He's like, no, I'm a champion. And he became the first 2-division champion and wildly successful, right? And I think that the point of that you're saying is that it's an identification thing, because the moment you speak it, your brain subconsciously starts to accept these things. And so if you identify as someone who's like unlucky, or like, why does this, you know, if you ask questions that you don't want to answer, you're like, why is this happening to me? Or why do I keep you're just going to get more of that. And you train your brain literally to scan for these things, which is why, like, again, in our space, like, there's some miserable people, even though they're successful. And it's mainly because they've trained themselves just to look for problems in your life and are everywhere around them. I keep those people far
away. Yeah. The cool thing is you just nailed it on the head. The subconscious mind is going to show you more of those things that you speak. So when someone asks you a question and you say you don't know, don't say I don't know, because the subconscious mind is going to show you more ways of you don't know. Just say, show me the way, show me the path, because we've already know it. It's already been programmed somewhere. So you just say, show me the path, show me the way, because that's going to help you be able to understand. Like, the brain's just going to keep showing you. It's subconsciously, it's deep. You've done it before. There's something has happened. So don't keep saying, I don't know, because you do know. Just show me the way. You just maybe forgot.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, for reps to make this like more tangible, I think when there's like something very powerful about playing pretend, because like in the one thing I've realized is that perception really is reality. And if you can choose to be anything, like, why not just choose to be like really positive and pretend that the universe owes you something, right? And so if you go about doing that, like, if I always tell this for reps who are listening who may be like on a job search, a lot of them like essentially they get really worn down after like a few weeks, because searching for a job is really tough. And so a lot of times what I tell them is like, hey, look, like, okay, you spend like a month or two looking for a job, you're getting your confidence wrecked a bit and everything. But I was like, what if God spoke to you, or the universe, or whatever you believe in, and said, hey, you know, you need to get rejected 29 times. But on the 30th time you get rejected, you're going to land this dream job. If you knew that, you would go about every single interview with a smile on your face and super confident and stuff. And so I always tell people, I'm like, why don't you just choose to pretend that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Right? Because your life is going to be a lot better. You're going to be in a better move. You'll exude a lot more confidence and energy. And everybody who I usually tell this to happen to, like, things always happen for them.
Right.
You know?
You just nailed it. I love what you just said. They happen for them. When a door closes, the universe is directing you to where you need to go. But if you're looking at it as a negative, then you're just going to have more negatives come into your life, right? You just nailed what I love, because I'm like, man, I just like, if you got a flat tire, maybe it's rerouting you because maybe you would have been in a bigger accident, so you're not going somewhere in a different place. Like, I look at it as the universe is always helping me. It's for me. This is for my best and highest good.
It's fun. Okay, so funny you say that. So again, like, yeah, like in medical studies, like, things go wrong all the time, and so it's very easy to get like sucked into negativity. Like, you know, case goes wrong, something happens. For me, like a week ago, I had a flat tire. So like, I was getting ready to go to the airport later that day for a trip to Miami, and I remember seeing a screw in my tire, and I'm like, oh man, like, I got this flat tire. And so I thought of him like, oh, okay. I'm like, what's the universe trying to tell me? I'm like, you know, maybe I need to slow down and take care of myself. Maybe it's this. And I'm like, well, thank God. I'm so happy it happened right now, because if it happened later, it would have been, you know, disaster. So like, even that like really inconvenient thing was like, you know, I think you can reframe things. So my tire started, I'm like, oh, I'm like, I get a chance, like, okay, I have a reason that I have to get this fixed. So I go get it fixed. And I'm like, oh, well, let me go to a diner and, like, you know, take my book and read, you know. And so like, again, like, I can't change what happened, but I can change how I'm going to interpret it. And I think for those who really want a great example of this, one of the greatest books, to, you know, top 100 books to read is a short one called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He's a psychologist, and he was like living in a Nazi concentration camp in Auschwitz. And his whole book is about this idea of like, perception is your reality. The people who survived this Nazi concentration camp turned their suffering into meaning.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
So in saying all this, like, let's kind of dive into like where you are now, and like what brought you to the industry, and let's talk about that.
You know, I'm making ortho great again.
There we go.
That's all I'm trying to do right now, you know. I'm trying to make it fun. No, man. I'm super excited. I started with this company, Redefining Surgery. Came back in the industry with like just this bang. Like, I disappeared from LinkedIn for a year. I disappeared from everywhere, and like, I just came back with a vengeance. And like, with the company Redefining Surgery, it's this amazing AI technology that we're building, creating all these data analytics and all these points where we can be able to basically, Iron Man comes on, Jarvis has that Jarvis in his ear and telling Tony Stark's where to go, what to do. We're going to be able to have surgeons come on, put in their ear, basically have their mentor talk to them like, hey, Dr. So-and-so, are you sure you want to cut there? You're a little bit more bearish, a little bit more valgus, or you need 1 degree flexion, keep on changing. And it's going to be real-time AI data analytics, and it's going to change the game. And right now what we can do, we have 8 cameras in the room, where we're creating this like Monday night instant replay, immersive 3D spatial awareness technology, where we can go in and rotate, go straight into the knee, rotate around. And we're also using off the tech shelf of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, so we can get the surgeon's point of view as well. So we're combining all this tech, creating all this data, and be able to do insane things that we've never done. Because, you know, when you're recording a surgery, you're only getting one angle, and like, nobody can see, like, it's kind of hard sometimes. So if you can be able to rotate around, medical education is going to be a game changer for us. Like, we're going to be able to change the education of how you can be able to see surgeries, how you can showcase it, rotate it around. Direct to consumers, patients want to be able to see these kind of videos for themselves, like what happened during their surgery, like this flyby 3D immersive kind of technology. So I'm really excited. We've been on this last tour for the last 3 weeks, hitting up all these amazing world-renowned surgeons that are really excited about this tech. And man, it's just taken off like wildfire. Like, we grew from 200 to 1,400 followers on LinkedIn, just like that, not overnight, but a couple of weeks, right? Like, pretty fast, because I feel like there hasn't been something new in ortho in a long time. And like bringing this into the industry, AI is going to change the future. We already know it. It's just get on board or you're just going to be late to the game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And so like, what is the first like main, because what you described has like super broad applications. So I'm imagining, I mean, is orthopedics like your guys' beachhead right now, or like what's the main use case that you guys are?
Yeah, so I mean, orthopedics is just the first because that's our bread and butter. That's where Peter Barillo, our CEO, started. That's where we all came from. So orthopedics, but man, it's spine, it's physical therapy, it's weightlifting, it's the possibility with parking a car. It's endless with the AI. We're just creating the data point sets. We got our algorithm, we got our coder being able to do that in the end, but it's not just surgery. It's not just orthopedics. It's a broader spectrum. What we're creating right now is we're just starting within the orthopedics because that's where we all came from.
Yeah, yeah, man. No, that makes a lot of sense. And you know, it's exciting about the space, at least for your team. A lot, you know, the whole team is very heavy in ortho. Ortho's really good about adopting, I guess, new tech and you know, creating some good use cases. So it'll be exciting to kind of see how you use orthopedic as a beachhead, but then leverage that into like adjacent specialties and categories. Are you guys going to be at any upcoming conferences that people can meet up with you guys?
Yeah. So we're not going to be at any booths. We'll be at AUKUS coming up November 7th to the 10th.
Oh, that's right around the corner. Perfect.
Just right around the corner.
Okay.
So I think we'll be walking around in some purple Caffaro shoes.
Oh yeah. Nice.
We fitted everybody with some Caffaro shoes and it'll be really fun. I mean, I think everybody will have a lot of the videos, we'll have a lot of the tech to show. So we'll be walking around, be able to find us for sure.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Johnny, look, man, it was so great to have you back on the show, or not back. It's finally, I feel like I've had the show, but we haven't. Finally make it happen. But also, you know, as a friend, like, really happy that you kind of work through these things and you're in a much better place, both spiritually with your family, your professional life.
Absolutely.
And you know, I really admire the fact that like you kind of reflected back on your time and sort of saw like, and empathized, more importantly, like, you know, where you were absolutely right in some areas that maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what you do over at Redefine, and it's gonna be fun watching you guys, you know, along the story.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. And I was glad to be able to have that reflection and bring that up. So I appreciate you actually asking that question, because a lot of people will be able to go back and be able to have that understanding where they can empathize with themselves and be able to say, hey, I was at that certain point, but I've grown through that. And so I think a lot of people can be able to look back and say, hey, listen, it's gold and I've learned from it. So
totally. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. And thanks for everybody listening. Be sure to give Johnny a follow, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to do me a big favor and join so many other people who have helped grow this podcast, take a second and look below. If you're on Apple, give us 5 stars and write a short review. If you're on Spotify, just give us 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. And most importantly, if you can, subscribe. We release so many different episodes that you may miss. Be sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on. You get extra points with me if you subscribe across all 3 channels. Thank you so much. And if you felt like this episode helped you, send this to somebody who'd really enjoy and appreciate it. Share and spread the love. We'll see you all next time.